Alright, so now I'm going to be filming a response video to your friend's video on the recording PC.
Over
Starting
there
off,
is the box from Eve Tech. Okay, so time for the unboxing. As always, beautiful packaging from Eve Tech. Blah blah blah. Beautiful standard black box by Eve Tech with the buttons and everything on top. Nice black paneling. Black power supply is not powder coated, but that could be fixed. Uh,
I actually don't recommend you try to take apart a power supply and try to paint it because, first of all, there are capacitors in there that if you touch the wrong one, it can actually kill you. So don't mess with those. Also, um, typically, uh, you may want to upgrade to a slightly higher quality power supply just in general if you, for example, are running a higher power system because if something goes wrong, because the power supply controls the power supply to your components, it can cause severe damage to your components if you don't choose the right one. So I would recommend upgrading the one seen here, but as we will see soon, he doesn't use very powerful components, so I'm not sure if it's very even needed to try to upgrade it for this exact build.
the tin's not my favorite. It would have been a little better if we could have gotten some mesh on the side because just allows for more air, but ventilation or whatever. But yeah, let's move on.
So once again, because this is not the highest end of builds, you don't actually need that much airflow. All you really need, in theory, is just uh, a place for air to come in. So just any intake and an exhaust fan. That's all you really need for a system that has as much power as this one, which is not a lot because you don't really need too much power unless you're doing some absolutely like super high resolution recording with automatic color correction or some sort of filter. I would also recommend going with the MATX case, depending on which one's cheaper, because for this kind of builds, you really don't need a very high-end case. Just get whatever case is cheapest and will fit your components. So I gotta say about the case, yeah, it's a good choice. I don't mind it.
Easy to loosen screws. Here's all our cabling, nice and tight inside. Cable down. Yeah, let's move on to the specs. Okay, so as you can see, it does come with an internal fan. So the
Yeah, this is a fan I was talking about. It is highly recommended that you have an exhaust fan in your PC. It is very recommended. Basically, the more fans you can put into it, the better. Typically, for a system of this class, all you really need is an exhaust with an intake as optional.
box has some benefits. Here's where the hard drive goes. We'll sort that out later. But I want to show you something on the board real quick. These are for, you see these gold things, you can move them. So this can go here, here. But
They're called motherboard standoffs, and they're actually very important. Make sure to not forget these because they keep the motherboard from contacting the metal casing, and if they make contact, then the board will short out, and that is very bad. So please make sure that you install those things, and typically either the case manual or just print on the case itself. It will say for what board size where you need to put all the standoffs. MATX, ITX, and ATX, or EATX if you're going there. Uh, it will say where to put what standoffs, and you will simply have a bag of standoffs given. They're usually not installed, so we need to make sure that you validate that they're actually there and all in the right places.
on your board size. Mine has to move these up until these slots over here because it's a medium board. So
Or an MATX board. Also, depending on if you have Intel or AMD boards, you may have different mounting for the standoffs. Not sure why they do that, but that's just how some AMD boards work.
if you have a large board, you want them on the edges to support what the board can do. And yeah, if you see
once again, there's no general rule for exactly where they are. Uh, like double check the the case manual or what's printed on the case, uh, and also see if there are any screw holes for standoffs on the motherboard that don't have a standoff beneath them. Just make sure that all the standoffs are in the right place, because it is highly critical that you get them all where they're supposed to be.
A foreign pair of hands in the video. That's the consultant from EveTech just helping out, making sure everything goes smooth. So yeah, let's actually get into building this. Okay, so we're starting off with the Prime B460 MK motherboard. It's a two slot LGA 1200, 10th gen obviously. Take two RAM, one slot over there for the you know graphics card or whatever, and obviously two slots for either hard drive.
I'm not sure if he's referring to the PCI Express slots or the SATA slots because, well, SATA ports actually. There are more than enough SATA ports for the application of recording because all you really need, so they're located right down along here. I see, because they're usually double stacked. There's probably two here, and probably around two more on the bottom here, which is around six. Yeah, which is six slots total. If you're doing recording, it actually makes sense to use RAID hard drives in RAID, which is when you have multiple drives combined together to have higher capacity. Now, I won't go into the exact RAID details right now, but typically most normal people will use RAID 0, uh, which just increases storage, increases speed, uh, and yeah, it's just but at the cost of reliability. Although I doubt you really care so much about your game uh, game videos being saved that critically. Also, you probably don't need a B460 board in order to run or just for recording. You could probably get away with an H410. It'll be cheaper that way. RAM slots you don't really need to care too much about. The one situation where multiple RAM slots are useful is for dual channel, and you can run 32 gigabytes on two slots. So if you really need more RAM with two slots, it is possible to have up to 32 gigabytes, which is more than enough for whatever you may need. And because it's got an i3 here, H410 is more than enough. Even for an i9, a solid H410 board will suffice. With 32 gigabytes of RAM, you can do all the correction, color correction, automatic filtering that you may need for your video production purposes. Uh, it doesn't really matter too much which board size you get for this application because you want to have enough PCI Express slots, obviously, and you want to have enough SATA ports. Other features for just a streaming PC, you don't really need like post codes and all that kind of stuff, which is why you just need a B410 board. B460 is also good enough, but I don't know. I'd probably go for the B410 because uh, it's cheaper, it saves some money. This is a good board. This is Asus, right? I think it's Asus. Oh no, this is yeah, this is Asus. I like Asus boards. I have mine in my own rig. I've had Asus boards for most of the PCs I ever had. They're good boards. Good boards. Let's go back to where we were.
Or SSDs. They also gave us a 10th gen Core i3. Once again,
So for just general recording purposes, this is good enough. You may actually, depending on what kind of recording and if you use streaming or not, or what you do, you might actually be fine with a Celeron or a Pentium, depending on what you have. Like if it does, still makes a Celeron for your socket, go for the Celeron. However, if you're doing something super fancy like automated color correcting, automated effects or something of that sort, you may need to step up to an i5 or even an i9 if you're really pushing the limit of whatever you're doing.
LGA 1200. If you want to see specs, pause right here. Yeah, we also got a nice and good graphics.
Okay, this I'm sorry, my guy, but what the hell, dude? First of all, this is the absolute worst graphics card you can buy brand new, except for maybe the GT210, which is still manufactured for some reason. But this is the second to worst graphics card you could really buy, and I feel that you could use Intel QuickSync Video because here, well, if it'll load up, the i3 has integrated graphics on it, and Intel's integrated graphics supports Intel QuickSync, which when you're doing recording, it is the encoding standard. Well, it's the encoding method, right? GPUs are a lot more efficient at encoding video than CPUs. So it would probably save you a lot more money if your application supports it. Because I'm not sure if actually OBS supports it. Because I have NVIDIA cards. I don't actually need to have you know to bother with like what to use. Cause I just use NVENC, which is for NVIDIA cards. Which is why you would have an NVIDIA or I guess the AMD equivalent for recording. But pretty sure Intel QuickSync is also supported, uh, and that GT210 is a complete waste unless you must have NVENC for whatever reason. Even then, I would recommend some older Quadro card, maybe an older GeForce card, because that GT710 is pathetically weak. There are times when the graphics that are built into the processor will outperform it. So I do not recommend at all that you
Gave us a
uh, buy the GT710. I extremely don't recommend you do this. Now, this is the GDDR5 model, which is actually the good model, because there's an even worse model, which is I think there's a 1 gigabyte DDR3 model. Like, in general, you should avoid the GT710, but especially you should avoid the 1 gigabyte DDR3 model, or any DDR3 model for that matter. Just avoid it, just don't come anywhere close to it. This card is not needed for the system. If you once again, if you're doing some extreme like high-end video, automated video production or editing, or doing some crazy stuff, get a Quadro or get some old cheap Quadro, or get some just any old cheap graphics card. Nvidia is typically better for recording. In my experience, AMD is very good as well, but just Nvidia has a bit more support typically from what I've seen. Don't get this card. Just don't.
over here. If you want to see the board, there it is. We're gonna unpackage it in a sec. So we also got a graphics card. Once again, just pause the video. We got a 500 gigabyte S.
Yes. Now this is quite useful, especially because if you could be doing a lot of recording or streaming. You may, in most cases, you typically want a pretty good uh, fast SSDs, so you have good access times. You don't have any slowdowns because of hard drive, and the system just boots up faster. Like an SSD is a must-have in like this day and age. Uh, PCI Express, I mean, I guess it's justified in this case because you are going to be continuously writing and reading to and from the drive, and in this case it is justified. Although you could get by with a cheaper SATA SSD or an M.2 SATA SSD because M.2 is just like a connector for a standard. You can have an M.2 SSD that operates over SATA, or you have an M.2 SSD that operates over PCI Express. But this is good. Like I don't really have any question with this. This is a bit of a sketchy brand.
SSD.
It's a bit of a sketchy brand, but I mean, if it works, it works. So this isn't really a part that you should stress too much over, as long as it's an SSD.
More than big enough
Oh, and don't get the DRAMless SSDs because those are really bad. They do not last very long, and just avoid
for
those.
a starting PC, and 16 gigabyte of RAM.
Okay, I'm not sure if this is a single stick, so I can't quite see it on the other side, but avoid single sticks of RAM at all costs. That is a horrible decision. That is like that's a single stick. That is very, very, very bad. Avoid single sticks of RAM. The reason you want to avoid single sticks of RAM is because then you can't run dual channel. And what dual channel allows you to do, well, you must have two sticks of RAM. It allows you to effectively double your uh, bandwidth for memory. So it allows you to just have a lot higher performance in applications that require memory, a lot of memory access, very memory intensive. And depending on which application you use for your editing or your, I'm not sure if you want, even want to edit any video on this, but assuming you have some application that automatically does editing on the fly, or does some color correction, or does like anything that is compute intensive, you really want 2 sticks of RAM. And also, if you're not doing anything intensive, you don't need 16 gigabytes of RAM. You could have been just fine with 8 or even 4 if you're doing something, just HD streaming or HD recording. It gives you 4 gigabytes of RAM, no problem. 8 gigs is probably going to be more than enough for you. Considering the performance of their components, I really think that this is a bit. The size is overkill. The single stick is very, very bad. So, like, buy 2 sticks if. Well, no, just buy 2 sticks. Don't buy a single stick. Period. The end.
Also, they were friendly enough to send us some thermal paste, which I'm freshly out of, so thanks for that. And yeah, let's move on to everything open. Okay, so they've been moved. Now let's put in the motherboard. Make sure they're pushed through.
Oh yeah, and don't forget to install the IO shield because it's just a rookie mistake that people sometimes forget to install the IO shield. You really want to install it because it looks, first of all, it just looks kind of ugly. Also, I don't know. It's just one of those things that you just gotta do.
And when it's in place, grab your screws. So in the
Okay,
box,
hold up. Oh, hold up. Holds. Okay, rule number effing one. Do not, for the love of God, build a computer on a fluffy surface. Because it has ESD on it. Well, ESD is when that kind of situation where you have, for example, like woolen socks, and then you try to touch something metal and it shocks you. Well, same thing can happen to these components, except it can kill the components, uh, and it can do so very easily because they're very voltage sensitive, and any disturbance or like anything that can, like, even the slightest shock can kill them very easily. It will happen. Do not, for the love of God, please do not ever do this. Ever. Just don't.
with the motherboard, you get one of these packs. It's tucked away.
Oh yeah, he put the graphics card on the bed as well. Dude, get a table. Build a PC on a table. If you're really cramped for space, build it on a chair. Build it on the floor. Just, for God's sake, don't build it on your bed. That is the single worst place you could build a computer besides like underwater or something. But that's obviously bad. Don't build it on your bed, please. Also, keep track of their stuff better because this has also been
Way in the back
ridiculous.
in one of these.
I'm not trying to criticize them for no reason, but like this is just horrible building practice. I'm sorry, my guy, but this is not acceptable. Sorry.
Curtains. So this is the screws that basically bolt down the motherboard. So don't lose this. You do get extra of these
Yes, don't lose and keep track of everything, and don't build a computer on your freaking bed.
gold things if you have a large board and you need to put them on the outer slots because there are a little more outer slots if you have a large motherboard. And if you're gonna run two boards, I do not suggest this.
Okay, first of all, I'm not aware of any case that you can easily buy for a cheap price. Well, no, there are some cases that you can buy for far higher, that cost as much as this entire computer, that will support 2 systems. But you cannot put 2 motherboards in a single PC case, as far as I'm aware. In my many years of computer experience, I have yet to see a case that can really fit 2 boards. Well, once again, there are some, but they cost like $500 to $600 just on their own.
So yeah, this just get a bigger box. It's more worth it. We will
I'm not sure what he means when he says a bigger box. Uh, Yeah, you should buy a case that corresponds to your motherboard size. So if you're buying an ITX motherboard, you should buy an ITX case. If you're buying an MATX motherboard, you should buy an MATX motherboard. Which, I mean, at this price point, you can probably it doesn't really matter like looks wise or even performance wise. You have an ITX board with an MATX case or an ATX case, but your case must be the same size. So ITX, MATX, or ATX or EATX, same size as your motherboard or higher. So that's like thing number one. You must have the right size case. So same size or higher for your board. Don't just buy the biggest one you can find unless you're actually planning to use it for many, many builds, in which case it makes sense. But if you're just building something because a one-off build, just 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 buy the right size one. It's not that hard.
We'll be putting all the cables in at the end, so make sure to just stack in. And at the end, we're going to be going over what the PC can actually do recording wise. Okay, so putting in the screws after it's aligned just to make sure it stays in place. Use a screwdriver. Remember not to put it too tightly because if you do put it too tightly and a little string is put on the board, it might actually snap. So just make sure it's
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna outright argue with this. However, PC components are a lot tougher than you think. Uh, like some connectors, especially, require quite a significant amount of force to insert properly, like RAM. Yes, it feels like you're about to snap the board in half, but they're meant to take it, and you need to use some force sometimes. Uh, don't be afraid to tighten these screws pretty hard. Obviously, don't go ham on it like a power drill or something, but just torque it down with a solid amount of force, and don't be afraid. It won't crack. You probably won't even be able to tighten it hard enough to damage it severely. Also, it can be used as a grounding point because if you notice that on these holes, right, like right here, I think he doesn't have the screw installed. So there's these little metal blobs surrounding the hole. The screw it goes in the chassis and it goes on top of these metal blobs, and it provides uh, uh, electrical grounds. So what a ground is in this case is call like any kind of power leakage or any kind of, I don't know, like other interference or just power that needs to go to ground can go through these screws and into uh, the the case. And I've had some motherboards that if you didn't tighten the screws hard enough, then it would not have good ground, and it would glitch. Now, some motherboards don't even have ground here, so it depends on your motherboard. But once again, my recommendation is just tighten them pretty hard. Don't go overboard, but don't be afraid of breaking it. Just be reasonable.
only a certain amount of tight. And remember to use a magnetic screwdriver just in case you lose the screws like my friend over here did. Okay, so our screws are in, so our board.
Oh yeah, and get a proper tool set. So flat. No. So yeah, flathead screwdriver. Phillips head screwdriver of multiple sizes because some of these screws require very small Phillips heads. Uh, and maybe some zip ties for cable management. Mm, that's all I can think of off the top of my head for tools. Uh, Magnetic screwdriver isn't really required if your hands are stable enough and you know what you're doing. But yeah, it is highly recommended to have a magnetic screwdriver.
Is safe. Some people like to put in the
And also, if the screw falls behind the motherboard, for Christ's sake, take it out because it will probably short something and it will kill your board. Please, so just take the time to make sure that there are no metal contact between the board and anything else. Just keep that in mind.
processor or RAM or whatever next. We're gonna do the cabling just for ease because it is a little hard to.
You may actually want to install the processor and the RAM and the cooler and test the all the components outside the case first before assembling it entirely. Because sometimes it's just very hard to then disassemble it and put it all, you know, in case something goes wrong, to take out all the components, test them outside the case, put them back in. So depends. I usually kind of cross my fingers and go for it. It's not a very good habit, but it's what I do. It works. In my experience, it works. But you may want to test something else, especially if you're not sure about it. Just use the like a solid hardwood table or the motherboard box to test everything out, and then mount it. Although in some cases you might actually need to take out the cooler in order to mount the board if your cooler is massive. So I mean, I don't really have many complaints at this stage or on this part of the build.
Put in the cable after there's a lot of space. So I recommend putting in the cabling first because it makes everything a lot easier. Then, yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, cabling should be one of the first
Okay,
priorities because it's just I don't know it is it is somewhat hard to cable manage once you have all your stuff wired in and plugged in.
so if you're going to use a hard drive, it just slides into here and your security screws go right there. So, yeah, if you're going to use a hard drive over there, and here are your power supply cables that just come to here. But this isn't a tutorial, so let's just move on to the next.
You could actually, yeah. So I can say he uses zip ties here, which is very, very, very good. Probably some here as well. I can't see behind the cable. Uh, However, those cables you can route through these holes, at least for this exact case. Route it back behind these holes and put it behind the motherboard tray. We have the motherboard tray is this metal piece that the motherboard standoffs bolt to, and then the motherboard goes on top of. So just route those cables, and the ones you don't use, like route them right behind this motherboard tray, and they'll be fine.
Part. But just remember, this is a cap. When it comes to the CPU, this has to come off so that you could
You don't actually have to push it out yourself. This is also only for Intel CPUs. AMD CPUs don't have that. Uh, yeah, you don't have to do that. When you install the CPU and you lower the mounting plate, it this little plastic cap will pop off on its own.
put the fan on. So just take that off.
Yeah, be careful with this because these pins are very, very easy to bend, and just doing that, like what he just did, just letting it drop, may may cause damage if you're not careful. So leave the cap on; it will come off on its own. Don't let anything drop on the socket. Just. This is the only part that you really have to be gentle with.
And yeah, let's move on to actually installing some stuff. Okay, so there is a process of figuring out how to place the CPU, but once again, this is not a tutorial. Go check out a tutorial if you really need help. So yeah, let's just place it in real quick. Okay, so you could put it in. Okay,
The way you install the CPU is you put the golden square that's on the CPU. No square. Golden triangle. Golden triangle is on the CPU on one of the corners. You'll line it up with the same triangle. Probably won't be golden, but the triangle on the socket, and you just gently drop it in, making sure that it all fits in and aligns. Don't touch the bottom of the CPU because that may put some oils and that may cause contact issue with the CPU and the motherboard because there's a bunch of little pins down on the bottom that make contacts with the CPU pads. Make sure they're clean. Worst case scenario, if you can't find the golden triangle on the CPU or you can't find the triangle on the socket, at least on Intel CPUs, you can usually only fit them in one way because the way you know that a CPU is in is when it just drops down right into the socket and it's not like wobbling around. No, it's like wobbling like up and down. Like if it wobbles a bit to the side, it's fine. They're not meant to fit like super ultra precisely, but it's usually simple to tell if the CPU is actually properly inserted into the socket.
so make sure it goes that way because that's how this specific one is designed.
Yeah, that's how this specific one is designed. It's not doesn't mean that all these are designed that way.
Yeah,
So you just be careful when you do this. This is the part that it's actually very simple to screw up.
then just clip it back in. Make sure that that's around the screw. So yeah, let's move on to putting in the fan.
Yeah, so just lower the arm and hook it onto here. I don't know what he says about the screw. Just yeah, whatever.
Once again, this specific one has some thermal
Yeah, don't touch the thermal paste. Don't touch it. Just don't touch it.
paste on, so you don't have to worry about getting extra thermal paste if you don't have because it already has some on. So yeah,
Put your finger in it, idiot.
Yeah, this goes on
Just kidding. Don't take it like offensively, but please don't touch the thermal paste. Just don't do it.
top of that, just to make sure the thermal paste is there, to make sure that your CPU doesn't overheat too quickly. Can never be too safe, so we're just applying some extra thermal paste just to be
Okay, hold the fuck up. Hold the fuck up. No, you're putting on way too much thermal paste. Way too much thermal paste is just as bad, if not worse, as too little thermal paste. Well, it's probably not even worse because either of them are absolutely horrible, atrocious things to do. But dude, you are putting on way too much thermal paste. It will seep everywhere. It might even cause worse thermal performance. Just be a big cushion of thermal paste between the CPU and the heatsink, which in turn will reduce the amount of heat that can actually be transferred because it should be just a big blob of it, and there's not, and the metal is better at conducting heat than thermal paste because the only job of the thermal paste is to fill in the little gaps between the metal and the heatsink. It's not meant to be a sole medium of heat transfer. You're putting on way too much thermal paste. What you should really do is here thermal paste application. Here, this is too much. All right, this is a bit too little. This is all you need. Just this much. That's all you really need. Like this. See, just do this. This is all you need. Just a nice little like long little like two rice grains. People often say just one rice grain is enough. I find it, especially with some coolers, it's not enough. Just do two grains, like two grains of rice side by side. Uh, just this is also fine. This is also fine. This is too much. See how it's seeping out everywhere? This is just right. Yeah, this is good enough. This is too much. This well, okay. I don't know what this is supposed to do. This is this could work, but I don't know. It's a pretty weird way to do it. This is too much. Don't need to spread it like this. Also, I don't know what this thing is. I've never seen that. That's a bit too much. All right. So just once again, that's too little. This is just right. And then where's the other one that was that thought was good? And then this is very good, right? And then this is this is too little, right? It's very simple. There's nothing hard to it. There's no difficulty to it. This is like the perfect one. Although for this CPU socket, I should put a slightly bigger one because it's a very large CPU. But yeah, this is still very good. This is still very good. Okay, you don't need to put in, right? This fucking snail of thermal paste.
extra
What
sure.
the fuck is this? No. Oh,
Make
okay.
sure
Now you just
to
forget.
lay it nice.
First of all, you put in too much thermal paste. Number two, you're spreading it. When you spread it, you cause concavities within the thermal paste that will trap air in them. The entire point of the thermal paste is to make sure that as much metal contacts as much metal as possible. By spreading it, you're harming it. Don't spread it, and don't put this much on.
And flat so that it covers more surface area on the CPU.
Okay, but then what's all of this right in the middle? That air will be there. What about this little patch? That's also air will be there. What about all these little imperfections and like waviness that you cause in the thermal paste? That's where the air will get trapped.
You, but don't go overboard.
Yeah, you went overboard. Good job.
Make
Hold up.
surface area on the CPU, but don't
Hold
go
on. Hold
overboard.
on. Hold on. Okay, this is already too much. It's already going over the edges, and you didn't even put the cooler on. When you put the cooler on, it will all just get squeezed out, and it'll be a big mess when you have to take off the cooler, and it might even impede your cooling performance. Now, he's installing the cooler right now. See? Now, if I remember correctly, he put his finger in the damn thing first, and I don't know if you cleaned it or not, but you must clean off the old thermal paste before mounting it with the new one. You cannot mix, you cannot mix thermal pastes that are old and new, let alone from different manufacturers. You like I really hope he cleaned this off. I really hope he cleaned this off because that will like destroy his CPU thermals uh, or make a very big mess. Like this method of thermal application is a mess. I don't know what he's doing here. Like, look, I can film a video showing him how to do it correctly. Like I don't mind doing it, but this is a stupid amount. Just an insane amount of thermal paste, and like God help this computer if he didn't clean that old thermal paste off. Like I really hope he cleaned it all off. I'll just go back to
Power supply is putting
watching
out
the
just so
rest
that
of
you
this
could
video.
connect it. Uh, and yeah, this is installing the fan just to make sure that it stays that little bit extra cooler.
Okay. Also, don't repeatedly press it down and then take out the pressure again because that will put more air into the thermal paste, and that's very bad. Just put down the cooler and then gently hold it down while clipping all the clips down for this style of cooler.
Make sure to get the click on each corner and turn it away.
Mistake number two, don't. Okay, so here, uh, okay, so say right here, right? You have a cooler, right? You have a CPU, you have a cooler. So just imagine a cooler on top of it. Never, ever, ever mount a cooler, tighten down a cooler by doing this one, right? Where did I go? No, by doing this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. That creates uneven pressure, which will drastically reduce the effectiveness of the thermal paste, and it can cause it to squeeze out one side, and just will not have enough of it. Just do a cross pattern. Always do a cross pattern. If you're starting with this one, first do this one, and considering the type of cooler he has, click this one in first, then click this one in first, then choose between one of these two. It really depends. Like this is just really doesn't matter if you go for this one or this one, but always go for the one that's across, right? Cross. Now, if you're installing some type of cooler that has mounting screws, you just tighten this one down a bit, then you tighten this one down a bit, then you tighten this one down a bit, then you tighten this one down a bit, right? And then you go back to the one you started with, do this one a bit, do the one across a bit, do the next one a bit, and do the next one a bit. Then go back to the one you started with. Do it bit by bit until you're done with mounting the cooler, until it's tight. And same with the clicks, except you first click this one, go across, click, go to either one of these, click, go to the one across, click. Don't go in this pattern, all right? Don't do the square pattern, do the cross pattern when you're doing the cooler mounting.
So
This is not
that you know that the
correct.
CPU is nice and or the fan is nice and tight. It's not going to fall off at any given time. So yeah, move on to the next step. The reason you want this cable to show this way is because right over here is where it needs to plug in, and as you can see it's actually pretty tight put in a way you can't really get it off. So yeah, let's just plug it in. So it's plugged in. Make sure you get this. It comes in one of those packets.
Once again, this is a crime against humanity right here. Leaving your GPU on, like leaving computer parts on your bed, is a crime against humanity. I'm sorry. No, what did I? Yeah, don't do this, please.
It comes with the board. It's to hold down the SSD, which I'm gonna show you now. So you see this slot, this is where the SSD goes in. You're gonna try and just slide it in, not put too much pressure on it because you don't.
Hold on. Okay, he didn't install the SSD mounting standoff either. I'm not sure if this board is different. It has some weird mounting clip system, but make sure you install the SSD standoff as well. This is also pretty important because you need it to mount the SSD in place.
Now.
I don't know
So
if
you
you
see
have
this
any
slot, this
idea
is where the
what's
SSD
going on,
goes in.
but I'll just
You're
watch.
gonna try and just slide it in, not put too much pressure on it because you don't want to break an SSD.
Actually, the weakest part of it is the slot on the motherboard, not SSD. The SSD connectors are actually pretty strong. Don't worry about the SSD. Worry about the motherboard connectors.
When it's in, it's gonna stand up like this. So yeah, it's gonna be able to flex. and down there is where you're gonna put that cable in. So you're gonna grab this cable, and it can kind of bend over as you can see. So yeah. Okay, so before you put your SSD, you want to put the bottom part of this
Okay, yeah, good, good. This is the thing I was kind of concerned about.
flexible thingy
Um,
in. Oh,
you must have
I'm bad with computers
a
today.
standoff for SSD mounted before you mount your SSD in.
It requires a little bit of pressure. After it is clipped in here, you just slide in your SSD like I showed you. It's in. It goes on here, and then you want the other part of this, just like a little circle thingy, which can just push into the part you just put in, and it's gonna hold the
That could
SSD
work.
still.
That works.
So you got your SSD. Now we're gonna move on to the next part. Okay, so moving on to the graphics card, you have to loosen this, and there is gonna have something to do with this. So you're gonna loosen this screw at the back, and these two, so that you can slide in your graphics card. So make sure to grab that. Both of these have been removed, but don't lose this one. You're gonna have to put it back after putting your graphics card in. So let's do that. Also, make sure you don't get these cables mixed up, and yeah, let's put in the graphics card.
Mistake number, I don't
Don't
know.
get these cables
Notice he's holding the graphics card by
mixed up,
the PC
and
connector.
yeah, let's put in the
That
graphics
is
card.
very, very bad because he can get oil contaminants on the pins, and then his GPU might not work correctly initially. Now that is fixable very easily. Just get a rag and wipe down the connectors before making sure that you don't have any ESD on you. So just touch any large metal object, and then just wipe down the connectors if there are any problems with it. But you should not be touching the connectors at all.
Just make sure you don't break anything. This is a hard process, especially with one
Yeah,
hand.
use both hands.
So there's this little clip back here, which you're gonna have to do when it's in place. So our
Okay, no, no. Now, this clip will automatically pop up when you fully insert the GPU. If this clip does not pop up by itself, you haven't installed the GPU correctly, my guy. The clip will do it automatically. It's made to do so automatically. You have to do it so that it clips in automatically. You can't just do this. I'm sorry, but it will pop up automatically. And before you install the GPU, make sure the clip is down. Because try to force it in, it will break the clip. But it will go up automatically. Like you just press the GPU in until that clip clicks and goes pops up. Also, quick side note: you may want to put a heatsink, an SSD heatsink on the SSD because these SSDs tend to run very hot, and it's not required by any means. But I just recommend for the lifespan the lifespan and performance, especially continuous performance of this SSD, I highly recommend a heatsink to be installed on it.
here, what you're gonna have to do when it's in place. So our graphics card is in place. If you want to pop it out, you just click that button.
Yep, precisely.
And once again, these slots are for different size boards. So yeah, let's put this little plate back on and continue. After you put back that plate, remember to put the screw in to hold your graphics card in place. Our graphics card today is this one. It is
The worst graphics card in existence they should never ever buy. The end. Period.
the GeForce
Seriously, don't buy this thing. It's trash. Just use the iGPU that's built in, or if you have a CPU that well, iGPU is the integrated graphics on the CPU. If you have a CPU that has no integrated graphics, just buy literally any just buy like an old like I don't know like just don't buy this card. I'm sorry. Just buy like anything. Just buy some cheap old used graphics card. It'll be cheaper than this. It'll do the same job. Like I don't know, maybe even buy NVIDIA card, like some cheap GTX 660 or something, or a 1050 or 1050 Ti even. But don't buy the GT 710. Just don't buy it. Matter of fact, I'm currently recording it. Recording this on my computer, and like my 1080 Ti. Well, okay, yeah, I'm doing it at high resolution with high bit rate, but you know, well, in my case, yeah, I do need a pretty solid, sizable graphics card because I am indeed doing some somewhat heavy workload on it. But like this card is not powerful enough, and nor is it worth the money. So just avoid that card. Get uh just a cheap card like an old 970, a GTX 1050 or 1050 Ti or GTX 660. Just anything but that card. Just avoid this card at all costs.
GT 710 graphics card by Nvidia and was given to us by EveTech. So next part is to obviously put in the RAM, which is one of the last remaining things to do. After you put in
Yeah, this is a single stick. Um, this is a yeah. Please buy two sticks if you're ever gonna build a PC. Never, for the love of God, ever use a single stick of RAM. That is a horrible idea.
your RAM, make sure you get a click, but also make sure to put your
For performance, mostly because once again, it doubles your memory bandwidth to have two sticks versus one. Um, yeah, that's all I gotta say regarding the RAM. Also, check which slots to put which RAM stick in if you're running dual channel. Check the motherboard manual or even the white text on the like yeah, well, just call text just right next to the RAM slots, like right here. You see the little remnants of this blurry pause frame. Check which sticks to put which RAM sticks into with how many sticks of RAM you have. So just make sure you get that right because this will not work if you don't do it right, or it won't work in the right mode if you don't do it right either.
RAM in the right way, and to tighten this one.
Okay, no, no, no. RAM will click in. RAM will click in if you press it in. You're not pressing it in all the way. It will automatically click in once you press it in all the way. Like no, this is not what you're supposed to do. No, you're supposed to press it in with enough force that both the clip on the top and the bottom, assuming you have a clip on the bottom as well, uh, both pop and click in. That's what you must do. You don't do this, then your RAM might not be seated properly. When your RAM is seated properly, it will click in automatically, like by itself. You don't need to. If you're doing this, you're doing something wrong.
Because this is the one that clicks out loose. So yeah, let's move on once again to the next. Okay, so all our power cabling and PC connection is done, and yes, we sorted out and
And yes, you're still building on your bed.
cable tied it. We're not gonna cable tie these cables because we might be putting in some extra hard drives. So just keep in mind
Route them behind the motherboard tray because that's where I mean it's out of the way. It's better for airflow. Just put them behind the motherboard tray.
these extra cable you don't use on the main board. They are for hard drive, so don't tie them
This is actually Molex. Molex can be used for power accessory, powering fans, powering fan controllers, or whatever other stuff you may want to power.
up if you plan on putting hard drives in later. And it's time to say goodbye to the dusty old rig. Here we go. Power cable. No, change. And the main screen cable for now.
Just quick side note. It actually may be more beneficial to have a slightly higher end main rig with a second GPU that is like just dedicated to recording. For example, here let's just show my current setup again. So I have my 1080 Ti, which is my main output display card, which is why I'm still using it. But I also have two other cards. In my case, I use them for mining, but you could just set your recording to a different GPU and just have your main GPU doing all the encoding, and have a slightly higher core count CPU for doing your tasks and being able to do whatever you need in order to have a good gaming experience while recording. But this is also a good idea if you don't want to have one piece that does it all.
I'm gonna put it on the screen card, HDMI.
Also, when you're plugging in the monitor cables, make sure to actually plug it into the GPU outputs and not into the motherboard outputs because uh, then you might not get signal if you have a graphics card installed. Also, it might bypass or just disable your graphics card if you plug it into the motherboard display outputs. So if you have a graphics card, always plug it into the graphics card outputs.
Transfer this, which is my mouse cable, to.
Yeah, that cable's way too tight. You should like loosen it. Just, 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 just take the 5 seconds to get this anaconda of cables undone and just rattle like a normal human being. Oh, for Christ's sake!
Oh,
Look, dude, I'm not trying to like bash on you, but like, there's some critical mistakes you're making, and like as someone has been building computers for many years now at this point, has built hundreds of computers. I just take the 5 seconds to undo that little mess of cables. It's not that hard. It can also damage your USB ports if you put too much strain on it. So just please, just get that fixed, dude.
over here, and my keyboard over here.
I mean, you should probably just put it in the back panel because front panel is the top part of the front panel is for easy access. So the more ports you have free for easy access, the better. So just I recommend just put it in the back keyboard, mouse, put it in the back panel. Everything keep the front panel as clean as possible.
Now to press the start button, and it's on. Yes. Let's go. See the screen? What's going on? Put it on HDMI. There we go. Let's see this baby load up. And it doesn't. Now we have to figure out what's wrong.
And this is why you may want to test your components before you build the entire rig.
Okay, easy fix. It was basically over there. We didn't have the drivers installed for the screen card yet, which does come with the box, by the way.
Uh, Newsflash: your graphics card doesn't need drivers in order to output to a monitor, for example in the BIOS, because the BIOS doesn't even initialize drivers. It's just uh, like if your GPU doesn't output the BIOS screen, there's either something wrong with your graphics card or your motherboard. Like a graphics card doesn't just simply not output to a monitor unless there's some error with the BIOS configuration, like you set it to only output on the integrated graphics or something like that, or some other configuration issue. But that's not normal. Like you gotta fix that. That's not normal.
So, if you just open the box, we
Also, never get the drivers off the disk. Always download them because the drivers on the disk are very outdated and just they're just old. There's just not much of a reason to use them when you can still use Windows without GPU drivers. You just won't get very good performance off the graphics card, but just download the drivers. Don't use the ones on the disk, my guy.
we already removed it, but it would just be in here, as you can see, if you want to go the disk route, but you can also just install it online.
Yeah, do online. Do not go to the disk route. Period. Do not go to the disk route unless you like have no internet or something. Don't go disk route. Just
Okay, so
don't.
problem wasn't anything to do with the screen card. Happily, you could put it in the screen card. It was us not putting the RAM in right.
Yeah, this is why. Yeah, remember those clips that you had to force in? Yeah, because you're not supposed to force them in yourself. They will pop and click automatically. Like, this just. Or do you put in the wrong slot? Because I kind of know that exact board configuration and RAM uh, what RAM order it uses. But yeah, you must push in the RAM fully. Also, if your motherboard comes with a PC speaker in the box, install it. If it doesn't, buy it for like $1 on eBay and install it because it is very useful for troubleshooting. It will beep if there's anything wrong. It is just ideal for troubleshooting. Also, some motherboards have troubleshooting LEDs, so just look at those to see if what's wrong with it, if anything's wrong with it. Because it can be very hard to troubleshoot stuff when you have no beeps, no lights to tell you what's wrong with it.
So it's on the main screen, and all we have to do is load Windows, and we're set. So switching over to on screen now. Sorry again for missing this, but or not starting immediately, but listen to this. You cannot hear these fans. Like you can hear.
Yeah, because well, there's not much power that the fan needs to cool. There's just not much heat and there's not much, just not, there's just not much the fans to do really. The graphics card doesn't even have a fan, so yeah, but uh, many people, especially for people that have built computers forward, they're all under the illusion that all computers are supposed to be silent, which if you have a more powerful rig, that's just simply not the case. So yes, I fully agree that in this case the computer will be very silent. If you have anything more, even slightly more powerful, it will get noisier under load.
Hear them a little bit, but they're so soft. If you're like gaming with your headset on, you won't hear these. This is amazing. Yeah, EveTech really outdone themselves this time. So yeah,
Yeah, they've outdone themselves with a GT 710 and a RAM stick, a singular one that's that doesn't well, they didn't even bother with dual channel. Like they have outdone, they have they've just literally just picked out like the cheapest possible components you can buy. Just gave them to you. I'm sorry, dude, but you got scammed. Well, didn't get scammed, but you didn't really get what you paid for here either. This is not a good deal. Like the board's too high end for this CPU. The RAM configuration is wrong. It's too high capacity with not enough RAM channels. You don't need this graphics card, or if you are going to get a graphics card, get something far more powerful. This power supply is of questionable quality, and I don't know, it's just far from the best you could have done. And also put these cables somewhere else, please. Put them behind the motherboard tray, like I'm telling you. Just don't leave them just dangling here.
yeah, move on. Okay, now to the physical part of things. So over here, as you
See this? Your microphone is speaking right now. Now, I know that my microphone is not very well set up either, but I am kind of forced to use a very cheap uh, DAC for my, uh, or rather a analog to digital converter for my microphone because my good one broke down recently and I haven't had the time to buy a new one. So, but your microphone is peaking, like lowered sensitivity a bit. You want it to be maxing out in the yellow because like it is like, audibly not the the best sounding. It's very peaky. Also, 1080p. You might want to change your settings because this is not 1080p. Like, yes, it will perform a lot better at a low resolution, but this is a very low resolution that you're recording at.
can see, this is my OBS. It's running at a 1.3 CPU rate, and I
Yeah,
have quite
because you're running at like kind of resolution of I don't know, like like 40p maybe. Like this is some very low res stuff. Like you need to fix resolution because you you just you just need to. I'm sorry, but like this is not very. Like, I'm not even sure if this is just in your output or what is it, but yeah, you do need to change up your resolution settings.
a lot open. I have my video pad open, which is my main editing software. And I have
And for editing, I'm not sure if that rig will suffice. You probably want a Core i5 with a like a GTX 1050 Ti even for doing like even somewhat serious video editing. Like you could in theory just do it on some cheap old laptop. Like I've done it on a cheap old laptop, but that was with no effects, with no transitions, with no anything at base HD quality with just nothing. It was just putting video segments together, even though it's still laggy. So I highly recommend going to like at least a Core i5 or Ryzen 5 with some older, not even older, but like kind of like mid to low range video cards, 1060, 1050 Ti. That's like kind of what you want for that range, just to have something a bit more powerful than what he has available right now.
Have my Discord on another monitor, as you can see. Uh, Basically, my background's already set up. I set up most of the PC already, so most of this stuff won't really help. But yeah, so I got my Discord. My Discord's always open. I got my uh, browser open once again for editing because that's basically what I do most of the time. I have some other files open for dragging and dropping. Nothing really important. What you're here to see is basically uh, the properties. So if we go over here, you can see the properties.
I'm trying to see what resolution he's recording at. Cause I'm not sure if this is just super low res in recording, if this is super low res output, or why is this so blurry? Because I don't really see why this should be this blurry. Like my monitor is a higher resolution than his supposed outputs, but this is either super low res or there's something up here.
Just the general. It's not too much. So
Yeah, that shows you nothing.
that's the wrong one. Okay, Control Alt Delete. We're gonna open our task manager so we can see the performance. And as the performance can show you, with all these applications, I'm running at an average of 10 CPU.
Yeah, well, your GPU over here, like if you up the res even a little bit, this GPU is gonna like run out of steam, run out of power instantly. It's already at 76%, and you're running absolute like like I'm sorry, dude, but this is pretty garbage quality. Like this is not good res. Uh, actually be pretty funny if my video is also low res, because I haven't actually configured OBS yet. I just kind of just done some quick settings. I just installed it just for this video. Uh, yeah, it's be pretty funny if mine's also pretty bad. But yeah, this GPU is not. It just doesn't cut it. Like you would have the same amount of performance out of your integrated graphics card. Actually, he's actually using an F series CPU. Actually, this is something I didn't notice earlier. Uh, yeah, these ones don't have an iGPU in them, so they don't have integrated graphics. For this scenario, I would recommend integrated graphics, or because he's editing and seemingly playing games on it as well, I would recommend an i5 with a 1060 or 1050 Ti or even a 2060, depending on what you can get right now, because it's very hard to get graphics card right now. But just don't do this. Don't get this card. Just get it and get a CPU with integrated graphics, or just get a better, higher end CPU and a far better GPU. That's all I gotta say.
Like none of
Single channel again. Don't do single channel.
this, my RAM isn't even fully being used. Single 16 gig stick RAM, upgradable up to 64 gig. My disk is not being used. Zero disk is not being used. One disk is being used. My Ethernet is running pretty smoothly. The GPU is basically doing the most work at this point because I am running three separate screens and I'm doing different things on them. Also, just to show you, I am in a call on Discord right now. So I'm usually on a call when I record, so this doesn't really change anything as you might see. So this computer is an overall 9 out of 10. So let's switch over to the actual app real quick. So this is the website for EveTech and the PC we are currently sporting. Now on the EveTech website, if we go to PC deals, here is the PC right over here. It is this one. So it is basically 10,500 rand, or as my editor would put it now, as mm,
Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you, but that is horribly overpriced. I don't know where you're getting these prices from. Like, first of all, Rand is, I think, South African, isn't it? Yeah. First of all, why are you buying a computer from South Africa in the United States? Well, unless you are in South Africa, in which case it makes sense. but I don't get. Okay, well, suppose you are in South Africa. I'm not gonna judge you for that, obviously, but like $702. Like either your prices in South Africa are super crazy, stupidly high end for no reason, or you're getting overcharged here, buddy. Because for 1650 non-super and an i5, that you're getting overcharged here. Look, I don't know what you're doing here, but you're getting overcharged.
dollar or US dollar for those American fans. Uh, yeah, this is its stats for on the website, and it's actually pretty freaking fast. So obviously, we had to get a different SSD due to the sponsorship, but that's not going to change much for you. That's actually going to make you a better PC overhaul. So thank you for Eve Tech for sponsoring.
Well, they're both are PCI Express. This is NVMe, and NVMe is PCI Express. So your SSDs are actually quite similar, if anything. There's not much difference here. Um, yeah, this card is like for the price that you're paying, $700. This is still a bit too low end. I'd probably go with something different.
This
Uh, tough H470. You don't need H470 for this kind of system. You need like a B460. Even an H410 would probably suffice. I yeah, this is too high end of a board. You could probably for the money you save on this board, you could buy a better graphics card, 650 Super, or even 1660 Super, which would be a far more powerful graphics card than this. Maybe even upgrade the RAM speed a bit. Although on Intel, it doesn't really matter what RAM speed you have. High performance gaming RAM, yeah, this is like your basic basement tier RAM, and this better be in dual channel. This better freaking be in dual channel. Uh, Overall, this is a good PC build, overpriced for what it is though.
video and
500 plus approximate value. Oh look, it's some complete bullshit offer that doesn't actually
I've
guarantee you anything.
really enjoyed having y'all over here. So thank you to Eve Tech for giving me this recording setup that really does work, as you can see on.
That just barely works at whatever resolution you're trying to record this at, which is not very high, I can tell. They didn't bother paying you for a Windows key. Okay, yeah, this is pretty funny. It's not even funny. It's just it's just sad. Mate, I'll be honest with you. You got a bit bent over. Like if you got it for free, then it's cool. You can just sell it or something. But this is not a very good system for editing. Uh, if you want to, I'll film you a what I think is a far better editing rig. Uh, and maybe then, and yeah, I'll film it. I'll give my thoughts on the parts of what's better, and I'll give some more tips on how to properly build a computer. All right.
My
I'll send this video to my friend, and he can forward it to you. If you have any questions, reach out to me. You could probably ask my friend to give me, no, to give you my Discord as well, so you can contact me directly. And all right, peace.